Picture a man, 66 years old, standing in a car dealership on a Tuesday afternoon. He's done his homework, he negotiated hard, and now he's doing the thing he's been proud of his entire adult life. He's pulling out the checkbook to pay for the whole car in cash. No loan, no payments, no interest. He hands it over, shakes the salesman's hand, and drives off feeling like the smartest, most responsible person in the building. And here's the uncomfortable part. He might have just made a quiet, expensive mistake, not because paying cash is always wrong. Sometimes it's exactly right, and I'll show you precisely when. But because he made the decision on autopilot, running a rule he learned 40 years ago that doesn't automatically apply to the situation he's actually in now, and nobody at that dealership or at his bank has any reason to stop him and explain why. My name is Nick, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, and especially about the moments where the obviously responsible choice and the actually optimal choice quietly part ways. If you're near retirement or already there, and you've always assumed paying cash is just the smart thing to do, stick with me because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to make that call on purpose, instead of on reflex. And if this gets you thinking differently, a like helps, and I'd genuinely like to hear your take in the comments. Alright, let's get into it. Let's start with the belief itself because it's a good one, and I don't want to trash it. For most of your life, pay cash, avoid debt was excellent advice. Credit card debt at 20% will bury you. Car loans stretched out too long on a depreciating hunk of metal have wrecked plenty of budgets. So a whole generation, very reasonably, learned one clean rule. Debt is the enemy. If you can pay cash, pay cash. And if you were still working, still earning a paycheck, still building your savings, that rule held up just fine. But something important changes the day the paycheck stops. In retirement, your pile of money is no longer being refilled. What you have is more or less what you get. And that single fact quietly rewrites the math on almost every large purchase you make, including a car. Here's the one idea this whole video is built on, so let it sink in. Paying cash is not free. It feels free because there's no loan and no interest. But every dollar you hand over to that dealership is a dollar that stops working for you the second it leaves your account. Economists have a slightly stuffy name for this: opportunity cost. It just means the real price of anything isn't only what you pay, it's also whatever that money could have been doing instead. When you were $25,000, $30,000 was mostly just $30,000. But in retirement, $30,000 pulled out of your invested savings isn't only a car. It's the income that $30,000 could have quietly generated for the rest of your life. You didn't just buy a car. You may have retired a small, permanent employee that was working for you every single year. Let me make that concrete, because it's easy to wave past. Say that $30,000 was sitting in a conservative, balanced part of your portfolio, earning a modest, realistic return. That money could reasonably throw off somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,000 or $1,500 a year without you touching the original amount. Now, over a long retirement, a car you paid cash for didn't cost you $30,000. It cost you $30,000 plus every year of income that pile would have produced. Meanwhile, if you could have financed part of that car at a genuinely low rate and kept your $30,000 invested and working, the gap between what your money earns and what the loan costs is money that stayed in your pocket. That gap is the entire game. And notice, this has nothing to do with being reckless or loving debt. It's just arithmetic that most people never get shown. But here's the part that matters even more for a retiree than the returns. And this is the twist. In retirement, cash isn't just money. Cash is safety. When you're no longer earning the money you can actually get your hands on quickly, your liquidity is one of your most valuable assets. It's your buffer against a bad year, a medical surprise, a roof that fails, a market that drops right when you need funds. When you empty a big chunk of that buffer to pay cash for a car, you didn't just spend money. You spent flexibility. You converted a liquid, available cushion into a driveway ornament that loses value every year. And if something goes wrong, 6 months later, you can't unspend the car. That's the hidden risk nobody at the dealership is thinking about. Because it's not their problem, it's yours. Now, I promised I'd be honest with you, and here's where a lot of finance channels wouldn't be. There are absolutely situations where paying cash for the car is the correct move. And I'm not going to pretend otherwise. If the only financing available to you is at a high interest rate, then paying cash can genuinely be the smarter choice, because a loan that costs you 7 or 8% is very hard to beat with a safe investment. The math flips. Second, if carrying any debt at all costs you real sleep, if it would nag at you and stress you out, that stress has a value too, and peace of mind is a completely legitimate thing to buy. Money is supposed to serve your life, not turn you into a spreadsheet. And third, if paying cash keeps you from making a genuinely dumb purchase, if the discipline of, I only buy what I can pay for outright, stops you from buying way too much car, then that guardrail is worth keeping. So this was never always finance, never pay cash. It's know what you're actually trading and then choose. If this is already changing how you'd approach it, go ahead and drop a comment with where you land on it, because I know this one splits people. Okay, back to the risks. Because there are a couple that are specific to retirees that almost nobody warns you about. The first is where the cash actually comes from. If you pay cash by pulling a large lump sum out of a tax-deferred retirement account in a single year, that withdrawal can count as income, and a big one-year spike can push you into a higher tax bracket or quietly bump up what you pay for other things tied to your income. So the $30,000 car might cost you noticeably more than $30,000 once the tax bill lands, purely because of how and when you pulled the money. Spreading it out, or financing part of it, can sometimes soften that hit. The second retiree-specific risk is timing. If you drain your cash to buy the car right before a rough stretch in the market, you've now got less cushion exactly when your invested money is down, and you'd least want to sell more of it. In your working years, a bad timed purchase is a bruise. In retirement, with no new paychecks coming in, it can leave a mark that lasts. So here's the reframe I want you to walk away with, because it's the whole point. This was never about debt good, cash bad, and it was never the reverse either. Both of those are lazy rules for people who don't want to think. The real move is to stop treating pay cash as automatically virtuous and start treating it as one option with a price tag, sitting next to other options with their own price tags. The person who pays cash after actually weighing the rate, the returns, the liquidity, and the taxes, and decides cash is right, made a great decision. The person who pays cash purely because that's what responsible people do, without ever running the numbers, might have made the exact same choice for none of the right reasons and gotten lucky. Or not. You deserve to be in the first group. So what do you actually do the next time you're standing in that dealership? Here are the 5 questions to run before you reach for the checkbook. First, what's the financing rate, honestly? If it's genuinely low, keeping your money invested and financing the car may come out ahead. If it's high, cash starts looking a lot better. Compare the loan rate to what your money can safely earn, and let that gap make the argument. Second, what would that cash have been doing? Don't think of the money as idle, think of it as an employee. Are you comfortable firing it? Third, how's my liquidity? After this purchase, do I still have a comfortable, boring cushion of money I can reach fast without selling investments at a bad time? If paying cash leaves you thin, that's a flashing warning light. Fourth, where is the money coming from and what does it do to my taxes this year? A big single-year withdrawal from the wrong account can cost you more than the interest on a modest loan ever would. It's worth a 5-minute conversation with a tax person before you write that check. And fifth, the honest gut check. Will financing this genuinely stress me out? Because if the answer is a real deep yes, then pay the cash and sleep well. That's a legitimate reason, and it's yours to make. Here's the thing nobody tells you as you're standing there with the checkbook out, feeling responsible. That feeling isn't wrong. The instinct to avoid debt served you well for decades, and it kept a lot of people out of real trouble. But the rules that protect you while you're building wealth aren't always the same rules that serve you once you're living off it. Paying cash for that car might be the perfect move for you. Or it might quietly cost you income, flexibility, and safety you'll wish you'd kept. The difference isn't whether you pay cash, it's whether you chose it, eyes open, or defaulted into it on autopilot. So the next time you're in that dealership, checkbook in hand, feeling like the smartest person in the room, take 1 extra minute and run the questions. That minute might be worth more than the discount you negotiated, and now you know exactly what to ask. If this gave you a new way to look at it, a like and a share genuinely help, and I'd love to read where you come down on it in the comments. Quick reminder that I'm not a financial advisor, and none of this is financial advice, just the stuff I wish more people got to hear before they signed. I'll see you in the next one.